I came to Buffalo in 2015, February of 2015, to work with the Western New York Flash, to work with their pro team as a second assistant, goalkeeper trainer, worked in the youth academy, and one of the very first times that I realized how far behind Western New York was and how far behind Buffalo was the very first time that I worked with some of the elite players. That when I saw the 2003 Flash team, who was maybe U12 at the time, playing against U15-year-olds and beating them. And it was like a time warp. I'm like, how the heck is this team beating U15 teams? Because where I came from, that just never happened, because you would get slaughtered if you played 2-3 years up. Then I broke off from Flash, and I did a little thing for Empire where we would train in Batavia, and there was a player there that was in 7th grade, and she was telling me about her varsity soccer team. And I was like, wait, what? There's a 7th grader on varsity? How is that possible? Very rarely were there 9th graders on varsity team where I come from. And that was like the first time warp, that and dual cards and things that we didn't do at all in Michigan. And there was a time warp, and realizing the time warp is why I stayed in Western New York. It's why I wanted to build PlayMaker. I thought that there was a lot that needed to be done to build soccer up in this community, because I still consider us a very young soccer community. And what do I mean by that? I mean most of the players that come in here to PlayMaker Training are first generation soccer players. We have a handful of players that had parents or have parents that played, and those players are really some of our higher level players, because their entry level was much, much earlier. That being said, it's still just a young community. It's a very, very young soccer community, where in other parts of the country, they're on their 3rd generation soccer players, or sometimes 4th generation soccer players, depending on the family makeup and if they're from other countries and whatnot. So fast forward, it's 2023. What has changed? What has changed in Western New York to make me believe that we're on the right path? Obviously, the success of the Western New York Flash is part of it. Part of it is, look at how many players they're putting into colleges. That cannot go unsaid. You can't just badmouth the Flash while they're continually putting players into top Division I programs all over the country. So clearly, Western New York Flash is on the map. Does that mean Western New York is on the map? Does that mean that we are a hotbed? We are not a hotbed. We are not even close to a hotbed. Now, again, going back to the successes of the Flash, they've had multiple teams make the Champions League of playoffs for the ECNL. Excellent. That's an excellent level, and it's an excellent accomplishment. Now the next step is winning one of these things, and it's very hard. Only a very handful of clubs have won a national title, and very few have won multiple. We finally have some players getting some national team recognition with Linda and KK, and that was, for me, that was almost unfathomable when I came in here in 2015. My issue and where I worry, and full disclosure, hear me out. I had a meeting recently, a chat with one of the directors of coaching at Flash. And we got to talking, and we came to grounds that like we have a lot in common, and we have the same goal, although we go about our goals differently. And we have the goal of building Western New York soccer into the next soccer hotbed. Now, what I am worried about isn't the Flash. The Flash are going to continue to compete nationally, and they're going to compete and get the best players from around the region. And that's where I worry about the state of Western New York soccer. For depth purposes, the Flash has to rely on Canadian players. They have to rely on players coming from Erie, Pennsylvania. They have to rely on Rochester, which is an hour out. They have to rely on Syracuse, which is a couple hours out. There's still some kids from Binghamton that come all the way here. That's 3 hours from here? That's worrisome. The conversation that I had with that director is, when was the last time a big time legit older player came from a smaller travel club? We need, and I've said this for 8 years, we need more clubs. We need more clubs that are going to develop the talent, even if it means losing that talent to the Flash eventually. You just have to accept it. You're going to have to accept losing the talent to the Flash, period. It's going to happen. It happens everywhere. Very rarely do you see clubs that are at the highest level have kids at 18 that were there on that same team at 8. It just doesn't happen. Now, this whole state of the union, state of Western New York soccer is what's going on at the smaller clubs. What's going on at Lancaster? What's going on at Grand Island? What's going on in West Seneca? What's going on in Orchard Park? What's going on in East Aurora? What's going on all over? What is happening at those clubs? Clarence is a great example and should be the model for how all of those clubs should be, but they're not. And I argue that where the space is right now in Buffalo, I think the second option, if your kid can't play at Flash or your kid is unhappy at Flash, you should probably give Clarence a call, because they're the most stable. They're the most stable of the competitors. They're the most well-funded of and the coaching staff doesn't move all over the place. So seriously, where is everybody else? Where is the talent coming from that the Flash is helping to compete in these national events and the ECNL and whatnot? Where are they coming from? It's not like RNYFC relies solely on Buffalo. They don't. They supplement some. There's some age groups that have 5, 6 guys on it from Buffalo. There's some that only has 1 or 2. RNYFC, outside of a few outliers, they don't really need the Buffalo players. What can we do to where every Flash ECNL team has every kid within a 40-minute radius of Western New York? What would that look like? How could that happen? That's my focus of the next 8 years. I've been here for 8 years. My next 8 years is about that. How can we build it so that these teams, these clubs, realize that it's okay to be a feeder? You don't have to have an identity crisis to lose players for that next level. I used to be so excited when I would have a player and then they go and make the development academy team. Are you kidding me? My job is complete. That's what I wanted for that player. I wanted that player to reach that highest level because I know that player worked their asses off to go and reach that level. What are we doing? What is your youth club? If you're one of the smaller ones, what are you doing to help develop players in the area? And what makes me think about this? High school scores. Go and look at what is happening in high school soccer around here. 12-0, 8-2, 8-0, 7-0. Nearly every single night, there is almost a double-digit blowout in high school soccer in Western New York. Why is that? Now, every high school, this is how high school soccer works, and this is how it works in other states. Each high school is going to have 2 or 3 big-time club players, maybe just one big-time club player, but then everybody below that player all plays together within that team, right? What's happening here? One, some school districts are getting depleted because they have a private school. They have a private school in their district, and so everybody just floods the private school. Okay, that happens. That happens everywhere. Oh, they recruit kids. It's unfair. You can recruit too. Recruit. Get kids. Build something bigger. Build something better. If you get upset that you're losing kids there, just build something better, period. That's all you got to do. But I see for the last few years, the West Seneca teams just get smashed. What's going on in West Seneca? They literally have a soccer complex that everybody in Western New York has been to at least once. Every soccer person. They literally have their own park where everybody goes. Does everybody just drive by that park in West Seneca and just not even train or not even pull into the parking lot? Because it doesn't look like they play soccer there, right? So this is basically about the state of the union of Western New York, but this is a newsflash to those high schools that don't have that ECNL player to save them, that don't have a high-level club player that's going to save them. Those high school coaches, they need to get into the elementary schools. You can literally have every single email address from K through 8. You can have every email address in that school district, and you can develop your own program. And it doesn't have to be a $3,000 a year thing. It could be very cost beneficial. It could be very, very cheap. You can have high school players coach it. Perfect example. How many of your high school programs hold summer camps? I can only think of one, and it's Brittany's. It's Brittany's at St. Mary's, and she does a great job with her camp. Go look at how many players attend her camps. You know who staffs it? Her players. Every single school could or should do that, but they don't. They don't. Why? Is it lazy coaching? Maybe in some cases. Some coaches just rely on the talent that they're given. Well, I'm just going to let Flash develop my players. Guys, you can't work like that. It has to be a collective. It has to be a collective group of where we want Western New York soccer. This is driving me nuts that we are so stuck in 1995 thinking where, well, I don't want them stealing my players, and no, this is us versus them, and us, this is Will East versus Will South. No, it's not. It's not Will East versus Will South. You know what it is? It's USA versus Netherlands. It's USA versus Sweden. It's USA versus France. That's been my thing since about 2010 when Claudia Reyna first said it. When Claudia Reyna said that opened my mind of like, wow, what our real competition is. And for me, and this is going to piss a lot of you off because I bring it up all the time, it's Buffalo against other hotbeds like Michigan, southeastern Michigan, who has within a 35-minute radius or a 35-mile radius, however you want to call it, has 2 ECNL clubs and 2 GA clubs within a 35-minute radius. And somehow the Hawks B team in some age groups is still in the ECNL. You know how like our B teams are in the RL? Well, their B team is still in the ECNL. That's a soccer hotbed. And people get pissed off at me and say, well, you know what? You should just go back to Michigan. No, I want to build something. I'm trying to build something here so that maybe we can compete with those guys someday. And then, so this is stupid, but we use our hand in Michigan. So this is southeastern Michigan that has 2 GA clubs and 2 ECNL clubs. Guess what? There's a GA club over here too. So you have 5 GA clubs, you have 3 MLS Next clubs, and you have 2 ECNL clubs, all in one state. And this over here, this is Grand Rapids, Michigan. You know what their population is? The exact same as Buffalo, New York. And there's no excuse about, oh, well, we don't have the population. That's the biggest excuse ever. Because you know what? Detroit players don't go all the way to Grand Rapids to help them compete. But we have to rely on Erie, Pennsylvania players. And you want to know why our high school soccer is basically garbage here? It's because we have to rely on Canadians. We're not even developing our own countrymen. We're developing other nations. So the state of Western New York soccer, what is it? We're still behind. We are way ahead of where we were 8 years ago when I first got here. And a large testament of that is the Flash and RNYFC. Where is everybody else? Where is everybody else? How has everybody else grown? Is everybody steering in the right direction? Or is everybody just focused on their own players, their own programs, their own bottom line? That's the biggest issue I have. You're too focused on your bottom line and not worried about the greater good of Western New York soccer. So, how is this going to change? It's going to change by looking after the players that are currently left behind. If they don't make the Flash ECNL or the Flash RL team, a lot of them get stuck. Luckily, we have Clarence right here, where the players that don't want that ECNL life, that don't want that RL life, they have a great option here. Compare it to Amherst. Where is Clarence compared to Amherst? Far behind. Where is Lockport compared to Amherst or Clarence? Far behind. Where is Lancaster Depew? Behind everybody. Where is Grand Island? Where is NWAA? Without counting their dual cards. Take away all your dual cards. How competitive are you? Guys, we have to start having a serious conversation about where we want to be and what we want to provide. And I want Buffalo to be the next great soccer hotbed. I'm worried that it's not going to happen while we rely on 3 hours away, 2 hours away, an hour away. We should be able to put something together where Buffalo is good enough.